In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country. Anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
This is a year of exploration for me. It's been exciting. Like, I really don't know how long the tail of from getting exposure from something like Quinn's lasts, right? I don't know if I have another Slugblaster in me, let alone another Slugblaster every 2 years or something like that, right? So this is an adventure. I'm excited about it, but it's I definitely changed in the fact that I was like, okay, let's try to be a game designer.
Welcome to Tabletop Talk, the podcast where I delve into the minds of tabletop gaming creatives. Join me as I uncover their creative process and inspirations. You are in the right place if you enjoy listening to thoughtful interviews with creative people.
Hi, this is Ben Robbins, and Craig might still be recording this. I'm not totally sure, but if he is, you're probably listening to it on Tabletop Talk.
Howdy friends, Craig here. My guest today is Mikey Hamm. Now this is Mikey's second appearance on the show. Since our first talk, Slugblaster was named Game of the Season for Quinn's Quest Season 1. That's beating Mothership, Vossen, Heart, Lancer, and Wildsea. Mikey, of course, lives in Edmonton, Canada with his wife Stephanie and their 2 human children, Pixel Witch and Mr. Boomerang. Mikey, welcome back to the third floor. Did I fuck that up?
No, that was perfect. Hey, Craig. How's it going?
Good man. So it's really funny, Mikey, because Slugblaster was a big deal before you and I talked. And it was actually John Harper that kind of said, Craig, you need to talk to Mikey. I think we had a great first interview.
That's sweet of him.
Really enjoyed it, but man, a lot's happened since then.
Sure has.
So Quinn's, who's been on the show as well. First off, a shout out to Quinn's because I think his new channel is just so good for the hobby.
Yeah, what a guy.
Yeah, and he's just a good human.
And I don't say that just because he gave me an award. So,
so I guess my first question is, what is it like to make a game better than Mothership, Vossen, Heart, Lancer, and Wildsea?
Well, I reject the premise of the question, but I will say it felt absolutely amazing to have Quinn's make a video about my game. So, and I did think the award gag in the video was absolutely hilarious. And the part in the video where you see the trophy, this close-up macro shot of the trophy, and then it cuts to him holding it and it's 2 inches high, just killed me. So no, I think Quinn's is amazing, and it felt great.
Yeah, I bet it did. Now, I'm a patron of his, and so I got to listen to the full interview that you guys ended up doing. In the video, we only hear maybe 3 minutes of the interview. So I'm also going to encourage people to support Quinn's, just even if it's just to listen to the interview with Mikey. But then the game sells out.
Yeah.
We go to are we going to do reprints? And I'm not going to get into all of that. What I'm curious to know though is, what's changed for you as far as your approach to design? Is this attention, the feedback you're seeing, any of this changed how you look at making games? Or am I talking to the same Mikey I talked to about a year ago?
No, I think I'm different.
How so?
I guess that the thing with Quinn's, it really did give me reason to think that this might not just be a hobby for me anymore. It was amazing. I'm super grateful. We sold a lot of games, and I was able to like pay off a big credit card that had been like weighing on me and my wife for a long time. And it was like, meaningful money. Enough that I thought, okay, well, hey, I know there aren't a lot of like full-time game designers. There might not be any full-time game designers who have a family to feed. I don't know, but you know, it's pretty rare. And so I didn't like go, scramble to go quit my day job or anything, but I did think, okay, I'm going to start taking some steps to try to make this a more, like an actual part of my professional life, like an actual side gig, not a hobby that, that occasionally pays for a new video game for me or something like that. Right. Like, so I have taken some steps to try to be a little bit more legit and, carve out a little more time in my week to really focus on this, and we'll see how it goes. This is a year of exploration for me. I really don't know how long the tail of from getting some exposure from something like Quinn's lasts. Right. I don't know if I have another Slugblaster in me, let alone another Slugblaster every 2 years or something like that. Right. So it's this is an adventure. I'm excited about it, but it's I definitely changed in the fact that I was like, okay, let's try to be a game designer. So that it's been exciting. Like we're gonna see.
It's really interesting for me, Mikey, because you're really, I think, the second designer that has been on the show more than once that has gone through this process. So I don't know if you're familiar with Mike Hutchinson. He made Gaslands, A Billion Suns.
Just what a hell of a game. So cool.
Oh, dude. He is, I just got done doing an actual play of his RPG, The Crawling Chaos.
Yeah. How was that?
And dude, it angers me a little bit. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Even this,
because he does not have any right to be that good.
Oh, just as soon as we started talking about him, my blood pressure went up. He infuriates me. So yeah, and on top of that, he's like a good human. Man. His game design podcast, I think, is phenomenal. Even if even if you're not in mini games. Okay, I have to check that out. I have not listened to that.
I'll shoot you a link.
That sounds awesome.
Or you can just go to Planet Smasher Games, and there's a link on it there. But he's just like off. I had him come on for a new mini game that he was putting out, and he's like, "Oh, Craig, did I tell you I made an RPG?" Cool. And I'm like, "No." So because he's awesome, he sent me a bunch of copies, sent me the PDF and stuff, and I start reading this thing, and I'm like, "Holy cow!" And it wasn't that it was new. It just was different, and it had kind of that Mike Hutchinson angle on it. But anywho, cool. I'm talking to the other Mike. But what's interesting is that when I first started talking to Mike, he full-time job. This was designing at that time, just mini games was a side gig for him. But since he's gone pro, and has quit his job and done it. So cool. It's interesting that you're kind of in the middle stage of potentially doing that. And I guess what I want to wonder is, what is that decision-making process like? Oh. Is it sitting down with a bunch of spreadsheets or?
No, nothing like that yet. I guess the position I'm in is that my day job is super chill and I really like it. And I've been doing it for a long time, and it's in a lot of ways perfect for my life right now. I'm a support worker for a man with pretty significant autism, and I have been with him for almost 15 years now. And
holy shit.
Yeah, and me and him just hang out. I help him with his job, which is he's a delivery guy, and I help him. I fill his day with stuff, get him around. He doesn't drive, so I drive him around. He doesn't talk, so I help him, navigate society in that way. And he's awesome. He was a groomsman at my wedding. Like we're very close. And I work. I'm a private hire for his family. They get government funding to pay me, and I like working for just a family. And he's quite integrated with my family, like I I take him to pick up my kids from school. And so there's a certain amount of like really helpful flexibility working with him too. That's just great for my life right now. So I'm, and I feel a sense of loyalty to him. So I'm not rushing to quit that job. Right. So that's part of it. So for me, this calculus has been more like, okay, where is there places in my week where I can carve out more time for game design without just, creating time from nothing, right? So right. It's been more like talking with some of Anthony's other workers and seeing if any of them want to take another shift or two, and to give me. So it's more micro. I'm not a very extreme person when it comes to like lifestyle changes. So I like to move in like small steps. But it does feel crazy when something like Quinn's happens where that first month really does feel unreal. And it does start to make you feel a little crazy. Like, whoa, is like something actually huge happening? Like, and I'm not saying it wasn't huge. It definitely was still huge. But in the time when you're right in it and the views just keep going up and the downloads just keep going up, you start to think like, okay, like is like, I don't know. Like, am I going to get a call from like Apple TV, like asking me to make a show or something? Like, you just start like going like crazy thinking like, is something really like big happening? Because if you've never experienced something like that, you don't know what the natural sort of arc of it is. So there was during that first month a time where I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, will I be like forced to make a hard decision about my job or something like that? Yeah. But I just sort of wrote it out, and now I'm getting a clearer picture of what makes most sense. And what makes most sense is for me to try to maybe devote another few hours a week to this, right? Yep. And that makes sense right now. So,
well, and I would imagine too, I mean, even without that level of success, I mean, Slugblaster was a love of many designers that I talked to, right? It was a game that was brought up a lot. And so it's not like you were invisible before then, and then suddenly everybody found out. There's a lot of us that were like, well, yeah, like, of course Slugblaster is awesome, Quinns. But at the same time, you hinted at it, there's the second album.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Pressure, right? And now that's like, if that didn't exist before, for the love of Christmas, it must exist for you now. How are you handling that, thinking about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, in some ways I'm kind of happy because I snuck out a second album before all this. So I made a game called Two Hand Path, which is a much smaller game. It's a single player game. And it's kind of just a little like roll and write dungeon crawler. And I'm super happy with it. And I know in similar to the ways of Slugblaster before Quinn's, people seem to like it, but it's flies under the radar, right? Like like compared to Slugblaster now, right? Because Quinn's just has the population, right? Like that's the thing. Like he's got the numbers, right? So and I'm not sure how many people like I don't know how many of like average gamer Joe find a game and then go searching for whatever that designer has made, right? So it's been kind of neat because I still there's like the Slugblaster, there's almost like my Slugblaster job, and then I still get to kind of make a little indie game that is sort of a more of like a hidden gem type situation on the side. So I got that chance to kind of for myself get those jitters out, I guess, and like try something really new and or really different. And it is different, it's got a whole different vibe. I wrote it in a different style, like even like language style and everything. And so that was fun. But so I don't know if I think that maybe helped for me as an artist and the way I think about myself to know like, okay, hey, I got more in me than skateboards and slugs. Like I got other sides. But right now, and I think this is totally cool, people want to see more skateboards and slugs, and I'm happy to give it to them. So now you're right. I am gonna kind of have to, like, there is gonna be sort of a sophomore release of like specific to Slugblaster, right? So, but I feel confident about it.
Well, good. And I got to tell you, there's two solo games that I like whenever it comes up in conversation that I refer people to. Path is one of them. The other one is Skyworthy by the Drakes. I think, and two very different games.
Yeah,
but,
cool.
you know, and I got to say, like, you know, Path has been quiet, especially comparatively, but I've not heard a bad word spoken about it.
And
so hats off.
I'm okay with that because it gives me a chance to develop the idea out a bit more. Almost like it's in some ways it almost like I'm not sure if is it out and I'm happy and it's going to be there, or is this like a long beta and then I'll do like a bigger
that's interesting
release, because that does seem sort of, before all this happened with Quins, that was going to be my plan, was to make a small, like, just try to release like a couple zines a year, and then anything that kind of hit big I would take to my publisher and be like, hey, do you want to do something with this, right? So that was kind of the model I was thinking of. I don't know if maybe that still might be what I do, but first I have to feed the Slugblaster beast a bit here. So,
well, what's interesting about that, Mikey, is that you saying that immediately triggers in my head. I immediately know that there's more that can be done with what you did with Path. I think you started some things and executed them well, but if you came back and said, like, Craig, I've got like a full blown like hardback book that's going to be built off of this, I would have no trouble believing that at all. So that's exciting to hear that that's still possible.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I want to do, because with Slugblaster, I got really like stuck in it for years, right? And we talked about that, right? And so with this, it was really me trying to prove to myself, like, can I do this the other way, where I make something small so I can get this thing out of my head and like share it with people right away, and then what will that do? Will it blossom into something more? Will it be like done? Like, and I think so far, I think you're right. Like, what it's felt like with me is like, I've gotten the best of both worlds, because I've gotten to share it with people, get it out. I can move on. I don't have it hanging over my head, but at the same time, like, I can't stop thinking about that world, you know? And I would love to do something else with that world, you know, and then even like the mechanics of it. Anytime I think of another solo game, I'm like, man, I could use Two-Hand Path's mechanics for this too. Like, I could just make, you know, so it has sort of done both, where it's like I've gotten to share it and I get to keep working on it. So that's sort of, to me, proved to myself, like, yeah, you don't ever have to become like, you don't ever have to hide like an obsessive project for years like that. Like, you know, you can just do this iteratively and publicly, right? So.
Well, and that I'm more and more I'm seeing that model really work.
Yeah.
Jason Cordova does something like that, where Jason just puts something out there, lets it sit for years, lets it find a community, iterates it, and then does, you know, a Brindlewood Bay level Kickstarter, right? The concept of ash cans has been around for a long time, and that's essentially what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's like just the slightly more dressed up ash can, right? And exactly. And I think it makes sense in this industry, because it's a slow industry in a way, right? Like,
yes. Ooh, good
especially call. Like these solo games, less so, because they have the thing that video games have, where you can buy it and immediately play it and then immediately talk about it. Whereas, you know, RPGs, someone might buy the book and it might be 2 years before they play the game, which is like very typical. And that's just the way it goes. So so RPGs tend to have a slower build, a longer tail, the whole thing, right? So,
So guys, the Insider Insight series allows me to sit down with designers, developers, artists, writers, and creators and learn how they approach their work. I try to understand their process, inspiration, and the methods for crafting their creations. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about slime, warp, and solder. We'll be right back.
Robin is a notorious art thief. Fox is a well-respected special agent. Will Fox catch Robin? Will Robin get away? And before the end, will they kiss? Kiss Me If You Can is a two-player rom-com romp about art heists and love, coming this July from me, Sam Dunawald, host of the games podcast Dice Exploder. If you want to make your own rom-com in under an hour with someone you enjoy flirting with, go to Kickstarter now and follow Kiss Me If You Can.
So, Mikey, I think before we talk about these expansions, I want to get in a little blurb. And everybody listening, when this comes out, the Kickstarter is still going. You know the links and everything that are there. If you are like many tabletop listeners, which is you take weeks to get through episodes, I'm also going to have a link where you can pick this up, even if the Kickstarter has or the crowdfunding is over. But let's talk about the blurb. The official expansions for Slugblaster: Kickflip over a Quantum Centipede, a tabletop role-playing game about being a teenager, giant bugs, circuit-bent ray guns, hoverboard tricks, and trying to be cool. Slime, Warp, and Solder is a 3-pack of fluorescent zines that make your Slugblaster sessions grosser, trippier, and radder than ever. More monsters, gear, and over a dozen new character options. Play as a telepath, an android, a teen with a pet monster, and way more. So whenever I talk to somebody about an expansion, right, where you've got a core game and you're now adding to it, the first thing I want to know is, are these leftovers, right? So were we making Slugblaster? We had some ideas that we couldn't fully fit in, or they didn't fit at the time. They needed more time, but Slugblaster had a deadline, and now we're getting a chance to see that. Or is Slugblaster done, can is closed, and you just started thinking about it and this was all new? Does that question make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. About half and half probably in the end, okay. But mostly the first one actually, except leftovers kind of makes it seem like they didn't make the cut.
It's a bad term.
Well, no, and I don't take offense to it, but like I'm trying to be sensitive to the leftovers, right? But no, it's not that they didn't make the cut for quality. It's that they just didn't fit in for space and alongside things. So, I'll give you an example. Like the main sort of the heart of these splat books are the new signatures, right? But in Slugblaster, you have signature devices, and they're like half of your character, right? You have your personality and then your signature device. Well, I'd always wanted to put signatures in that weren't devices, signatures that were more like powers or things like that. So like I always wanted to have like a telepath. I always wanted to have like a where you could have like a creature, right? Like stuff like that. But because the majority of the things I had written were these signature devices, and because they have a very specific mechanics for like collecting components and adding mods and stuff, and just all the language around them and the mechanics are all geared towards these being like technical items, like gear. Yeah. Because of that, I just realized it'd be like a whole other thing to add in things that weren't like devices, right? And so I just always was like, you know what? I finally you get to a place in a project where it's actually a very helpful thing when you're getting late stage is to create a document that's called for next time. And you just, every time you get the urge to add something, you just put it on that sheet instead. And so I had on there, I was like, I have all these signature ideas and just stuff like that. And so that's, I always knew I'd wanted to do that. Even in the first Kickstarter, the original one back in 2020, I had already decided that. And that was like 2 years before the actual game would be published. But you can see in the Kickstarter, in my stretch goals, I have this idea for a book of slime, a book of warp, and a book of solder.
I don't think I realized that.
Well,
that's
yeah,
cool.
I forgot about that for a while too, actually. And because we didn't hit them. So I'd always, this idea is actually like pretty old, when when the Quinn's thing happened, Ray from MythWorks, my publisher, he emails me and he's like, "So, what do you think? An expansion? Do you got an expansion?" And
Hey,
I was like, "I certainly do." And so I just was like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to, what do you want me to do?" And he's like, "Whatever you want to do. Just let's get it out fast." So,
So real quick though on that, Mikey, so you get that call, which obviously gives you a motivation, right, to re-explore that. Now you look back at this document, which is full of a ton of stuff.
Yep.
What's the decision-making process then? When do you start going, because now you're back in Slugblaster mode, which is now it can't just be, these ideas that I didn't fully bake. Now I need to pick these out and I need to develop them and move on them. How do you pick through that document? Because I guarantee these 3 zines don't cover everything that was in that document.
No, because some of the things in the document are things like that are really just like alternate ways I could have written the rules of the game, right? So things that I actually put there just to put to bed, because I'm like, okay, if I ever make like a Slugblaster 2.0, maybe I can revisit and see if I want to put in, I can't even think of an example, but like, rules for hit points for monsters. I don't know, whatever. Like, if I can look back, but that's not the stuff that we're doing for this expansion. We're doing stuff that fits right in. Well, there was like a quite a back and forth between me, Jace, aka Sex on a Pizza, the illustrator that I'm working with.
God, so good.
And Ray for MythWorks, talking about, okay, like what do we want this to look like? Do we want to, I'd originally envisioned these as these like 3 zines that I would self-publish, all this like back in the day. But now, what do we want to do? Do we want to do like just like a full book? Like, do we want to should I put all this stuff together and we just do a full book? Should we just release one of these things? But maybe it's a bit like more meaty than like a zine, but so we talked like all the options, and this sort of 3-way conversation about like to see, because Jace was going to do all the layout and illustration. So they had the art direction angle that they were thinking of, and then Ray
and they get a vote, right?
And then Ray was thinking, he's working with the manufacturer, so he's thinking about like format and paper costs and all that stuff, and trying to and I mean, trying to think of like, hey, what's the coolest way to package this that is also like feasible and stuff. And then I'm just trying to think like, how do I want to organize these ideas kind of, and in the end I kind of just was like, I really want to do the three books. Can we just do 3 books right now? Like, can we do Slime, Warp, and Solder like right now? So, and they were both like, yeah, let's do it. So, that's how we decided. Like, and Jace even, Jason illustrator, but also a pretty good designer in their own right. They do like video game development stuff like on their own and stuff.
No kidding.
So they're thinking it in these terms, and they say like, you sure you don't want to do like a player facing book and then a GM facing book or something like that? And I was just like, you know what? No, I don't know why. I want this to be based around these themes and these like, and I talked with Ray about it. I said, Jace has had this idea as this, and we started talking. We're like, you know what? Like, it's not going to get in the way, right? Like, that's not going to be a problem. The way these things are going to be laid out and the way the GM's going to use them, it's actually going to be okay. Not to have them organized in that sort of typical way. And this will just be more fun. So we decided, let's go the fun way. I probably decided that, and they allowed me to do that. And we're just like, hey, let's do these 3 themes. So we got Slime, which is diving more into like the biological weirdness of Slugblaster, and so like more like of like the goopy like insectoid monsters, and then signatures that like affect like that are like more biological, like you like your creature pet, like your ability to turn into a monster yourself as your signature, and then I got a larva a larva weapon, which is sort of like, it's like a gun. It's like a bug you hold like a gun, and so like, yeah, stuff like that. So that's that. And then warp is going more into the kind of trippier, like, far fringes of science, like mind-bendy aspect of Slugblaster. And that's where you have your telepath and your 5D mind signature and your alt channeling, which is kind of like, verse jumping from, everything everywhere all at once. Right. And,
nice.
All this stuff like that. And then solder is just, more like diving deeper into the tech element of Slugblaster, more gear and more signatures that these I would say are leftovers,
right?
Because these are just like there's some signatures I just didn't have done by the time I had to put the book out.
Yep.
And so there you got your phone and you got your robotic self. That one maybe was out of scope for the original book, which is why I cut it. But that's where you can be a robot yourself, trying to become a real boy, kind of, stuff like that. So those are the three kind of themes, and then we're gonna base it. And because the heart of these things is these new signatures, it kind of made sense. That's part of the reason it made sense to organize them that way. And then we're also adding, of course, a lot of other stuff around those, and so that's just going to become a sort of fun little game for myself, is to see like, okay, what else can I add to these theme wise, right? So
So this next question is going to be a little cheeky on purpose, but why are you not tired of Slugblaster at this point? And did you have to kind of like go, all right, roll up the sleeves and fall back in love with it? Or are you honestly like never lost enthusiasm? Because it's been, we're coming on what, 7-8 years now that this has been a part of your life?
Yeah. Honestly, if we go back to like the first short story I wrote, we're getting closer to 15, right? So,
right.
I don't know. Like, there are days where I need a break from it all. And I mentioned I needed a break to write a game that was completely different. But in some ways, I'm here for it, if only because it is just sort of a never ending well. Like, there's just so much you can do with this genre, and and I don't think I'll ever get tired of stories about teenagers. They're the world's most interesting people. So, no, and also like the community's excitement about it is truly infectious, right? So, I'm just constantly, hearing something from someone that kind of reminds me like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like, people like this. Like, I remember why I like it, like, so yeah, right. I got to take breaks and to do other things, but I don't think it's going to be hard for me to roll up those sleeves, like you said, and do Slugblaster, like, without, it's not going to feel soulless for me, ever to do that. It's just going to be, I just can like get back on that bike, and do it. And then get to see, okay, like, how can I do this in a little bit different way, which is what we're doing with this. I get to do some new things with it.
Yeah. Before we got on Mikey, you mentioned, hey, you're just like, hey, Craig, this isn't done yet. It's still in process, which I told you gets me excited. Can you give me a sense in the arc right now where you are? So it sounds like we've defined the 3 books.
Yeah.
So you've got your frameworks in place. It sounds like we have elements that we took from document A and we've sprinkled it into its proper bucket. Where are we now?
Yeah, so where we are is me and Jace are finding our workflow, right? So we're figuring out just the mechanics of sharing an InDesign document, and building out the spreads, and just organizing these books, and figuring out who wants to do what. Because one really cool thing, and this is something that really does help me stay excited about this, is that we're doing like this whole new aesthetic for these games, right? This whole
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, kinda, yeah, because I did all the layout for Slugblaster, and Jace did illustrations that I integrated into the book, right? But for this one, Jace is doing like the whole art direction. So, cause yeah, before I worked,
Is that hard to let go of?
it's so good for me to do.
I bet it is.
And I was excited to do, that was part of it, is I was like, you know what? Like, I need to let go of some of these things if I'm going to want to, if I'm going to, do this, and put out things at the speed required to, make it an income stream. I'm going to need to learn these workflows and to collaborate better. And part of that is working with people that you trust, right? And I really trust Jace, trust their aesthetic sense and everything like that. So I just said, pretty early on, I was like, hey, do you just want to do the whole, like, do you want to take over this whole part of it? And they were down to do it. So, so they started doing that. And then as we work, they come to me at one point and they're like, you know what? I actually I don't know InDesign as well as you do. What if you still do some layout stuff, but I just provide all the assets and these kind of like, I'll do it. Like if you handle like how the text is laid out, I'll handle like other stuff. And so we're working on that. Like we're figuring that out and it's so fun.
That's cool.
The other part of that's fun about it is that, Jace is like doing more and more of the creative side now too, where, for Slugblaster, I would just tell them everything I needed. It'll be like, hey, I need a drawing of this. I need a drawing of this. And, and they would do it and they would still put their own flair on it and integrate their little ideas. And for example, the cover, that crazy kind of Where's Waldo, I gave them a list of like, it'd be cool if there was this and this and this, but then they kind of went nuts and just did their own thing and put in all this stuff that I hadn't thought of and that was so them. And so that was cool. And so for this book, we're just doing so much more of that. Like, for the monsters, cool. I knew because Jace, I was like, we got together for a meeting and Jace was just sort of showing me some of their stuff that they were working on for themselves. And they had all these cool monsters that they drawn in kind of this style that like, without being 8-bit, sort of, hearkened to that, like, or kind of like gave that impression of like an 8-bit game or something, like, these kind of isometric drawings of these monsters. And I was like, this stuff's awesome. Like, what are you using these for anything? And they were like, not really. And I was like, hey, well, why don't you just like use any idea you have and you can use that stuff.
That's the flexibility of your world, though, right? Is that it's so easy for you to create a verse where that all is always been there. So
now, like Jace, he's not using any of that like stuff, like click and drag, but some of the designs that they've come up with is they're just like, so we have this shared document, and what happens is they'll just upload this art of these monsters that they've come up with. And, I've given them a brief list of like, we should have like a spider monster and like a robot and like a new Soliton and stuff like that. And like, oh, we should do the Waking Pits vampire that I mentioned in the book, but I never actually included stuff like that. So they'll do that, but then they'll just add in their own stuff too and like do their own takes on everything. And then I have this folder full of drawings of art, and then I get to write the monsters to it, right? So it's so much more collaborative and like closer to a 50-50, at least at this point. I guess we'll see how it shakes out. But at this point, that's what's so fun about it, is it feels like, it feels really fun to work on in that way, right? And
Well, it sounds like it's like a built-in symbiotic inspiration,
Yes.
right? Where you're giving them ideas and they're building off of it. They're coming back with their version of it. You're like, holy shit, now I got to create this monster. And just that back and forth has got to be a really neat process.
And then there's some just really fun moments of just serendipity or divine inspiration or something where they had a little character that they'd drawn even in they'd had this they have these characters that they've incorporated into Slugblaster stuff and then just keep putting them in. And it's they have little backstories for these characters. And on the cover, a lot of those little characters that you see on the cover, they have Jace has names for them and stuff, right? And these aren't characters I came up with. They're characters Jace came up with. And one of them has this, already has this weapon that's this gun connected to this little tank on their chest that has a little organism inside it. And I hadn't even noticed that detail about that little guy. And then all of a sudden, so I'm like, okay, we need a drawing for this, larva weapon. And Jace shows me this full page, sort of hero, illustration of this character but featuring this weapon. And I realized oh my goodness, that's not how I was picturing this larva weapon, but it's absolutely perfect. It's a perfectly valid and absolutely amazing interpretation of it to have this gun hooked up to this tank of this thing. So it's just been these cool moments of
oh, that's
it's
so cool.
Did I tell Jace about a larva weapon years ago or not?
Right?
And so I think at this point, it's cool to work. I loved working with all the artists I worked with for Slugblaster, and I had a lot of them, but and I like doing it, and I think it came together in its own way, right? But I've always really liked this a kind of a kind of singular vision, sort of singular illustrator type thing. And so getting to kind of do that. And we are using, one more artist, Galen. He did all the signature device art, for the first book. And we're still using Galen.
So I'm a huge Galen fan.
Yeah. To do art for the play sheets and stuff. So,
that's great.
Yeah. But to have the books all be this kind of, just have Jace have this singular vision. And I just think it's so cool. And, and it's fun. It's fun working that. It also cuts down the amount of emails when you're just working with one other person, kind of as far for the aesthetics. I should also mention that the third member of the sort of the
super
group that the team doing is my pal Cass Ray, who was the lead consultant on Slugblaster, and also wrote Undead Awakening, which was a supplement for Wicked Ones, and is just a really cool game designer, obsessed with the same things I am, weird mechanics and sort of putting video gamey stuff into games as much as possible, and just that kind of games where you rip up pieces of paper and stuff. So me and Cass are kind of we're a good team too on the mechanics and gameplay front. So so that's kind of the dream team right now, and it's pretty fun.
It's obvious in hearing you tell about it. So last question about this before we move on. I just recently had an interview with John Harper, and we talked about a lot of things. He's got Deep Cuts that's actually kickstarting right now as well. And the one thing that I talked to him about, and I want to pose the same question to you, is the idea of intellectual property.
Right.
So when I look at Slugblaster, there's the heart of it as a game.
Yeah.
But you have also now developed a pretty rich, deep intellectual property that is the world that's built around it. And John was talking about how that he is very protective of. So he doesn't mind and allows people to, he's got a whole Forged in the Dark type thing. I'm wondering, and you even made a joke about the Apple TV thing, how precious is this IP for you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say it is. If I'm being honest, it is, especially certain parts of it. Where, if there was, Yeah, it's tough. This started off as a short story, and very personal.
It started off as an IP.
It started off. It started with me then, it led to me then spending quite a few years trying to write a novel in it, right? So, and then of course the book itself is a huge amount of it is a memoir of my like childhood life, essentially in game book form. So there's definitely a huge amount that's personal to me, and I guess I would never want to feel unable to keep telling stories in this world myself, right? At the same time, I really like letting go of it and giving it to the community also. And the more that happens, the more it doesn't feel like mine in a good way. Where there are things about it where I'm like, you know what, Slugblaster's like not just mine anymore. This is something I'm honestly having a tough time navigating myself, because people have been asking for a long time, like, hey, do you have a license for like do you have a a third party license or anything? And I've just sort of been putting it off because I'm trying to still figure out the right language, because obviously I don't care if anyone takes any of the mechanics from Slugblaster at all. Like, they can take them, they don't even have to credit me, it'd be nice, but like you're allowed to do that, right? Like I'm very much believe in like open source in that way, but then I also, like, a lot of people in the community want to write stuff that does play with the world, right? They want to write, they want to be able to reference different factions and different characters and stuff. And I want them to be able to do that too. And really, I wouldn't even have a problem with people doing that and selling it. But then, I guess I gotta still think it through, because I also don't want, a bad actors coming through and then writing the Slugblaster novel that I want to write in my world, and like I can't, right? So I have to be practical about it. But yeah, this is something that's tough to figure out. I don't know. Like, Ray has talked to me about, there's always the chance that stuff like this, even small, relatively small IPs like this, get optioned by studios. And, the chances of those ever turning into something is pretty small. But even still, it's like, well, what would you want to do? And it is tough, because it's like, part of me, it is so personal and I'd want to be involved. The other part of me thinks it'd be so frustrating to have to work with such a big team and inevitably make so many concessions, that part of me would be like, you know what, just give me the check. I'm excited to see what you do with it. Right. So yeah, I don't know. It is tough. And I will say, one of the hardest things that I didn't expect about this game getting more and more popular, and it's one of those problems that I'm lucky to have. I'll absolutely say that, in very much so. But the one thing that's interesting is, I didn't realize, like, the thing that I start feeling selfish about is, I have a list of ideas I have wanted to do, right? Things that I've wanted to make for it and stuff like that. And I do sometimes feel anxious about, like, okay, well, like, what if someone else makes this thing before me, right? Like, what if someone else makes the telepath before I do, or whatever? Right. And in that case, like, I don't want to. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to be selfish and prevent other people from doing that, but I also want to do it. And, and indie designers always talk about, like, the two cakes theory, right? Where it's like, don't get, it's this idea of, like, don't be discouraged if someone else comes up, has doing the same idea as you, because the audience really just is happy to have two cakes, right? They don't care.
Exactly.
So, but the two cakes thing, the dynamic changes when one of the designers has quite a bit of, like, sort of power in that, and sort of, like, a big audience, right? So it's a little different. I think I worry about how someone would feel if, they wrote a telepath. I didn't see it. Then I put out a book that has a telepath, and you know, I worry like, oh man, that would suck for them to like, you know. But at the same time, I have a list of things I want to do, and part of the thing I like doing with a thing I like about game design is doing my ideas, right? So that's a tricky thing to navigate too. And I wonder, I'd like to talk to John about that, because I'm sure John had to navigate some of that with Deep Cuts, because I'm sure a lot of that stuff that they wanted to do forever. And then of course, Blades has one of the most vibrant hacking communities ever. So
it's worth having the conversation, because he's also there's a Blades in the Dark TV series in pre-production right now, right? So I think it'd be worth having that conversation with him, just because I think he's farther down the path than you, and I would venture to guess he will tell you, you need to spend some time thinking about
it's like, what you're doing. I want everyone to be able to play, but I also want to be able to play, but I have to now be...
It's okay to be precious.
I have to now, but I also have to be aware now that I'm like... the big kid on the playground, right. And I don't want to be a bully either, right? Or even accidentally knock someone over, right? So, right. It's something I'm trying to be thoughtful about, but it is interesting because because I do genuinely, one of the most exciting things about all of this is just seeing is the fan base like making stuff. Yep. Like that's the coolest thing ever to me. It's just doing these game jams that we do and just seeing the stuff people come up with. But then I'm always trying to figure out how much of that stuff I should read, how much of it shouldn't I read. Like I can't decide which is the best way if I also want to keep making stuff that will just by the nature of my name be considered more authentic or official by the fans, right? Even if it's no better. It just will be seen that way. And so I want to be mindful of that too.
No, absolutely, for sure. So guys, we're going to take one more break and get back from this break. I'm going to find out from Mikey, what is his one thing worth sharing? We'll be right back. Attention all floor heads, gather round. I have a quest for you. You can simultaneously show your love for the show and embark on rewarding adventures. Head over to drivethrurpg.com, your one-stop shop for all things gaming. Whether you're looking for rulebooks, maps, art, or epic tales to enhance your gaming experience, it is that one-stop shop. Now, in the show notes, there's a unique affiliate link. Every one of your purchases directly supports Tabletop Talk if you use that link. It's like casting a powerful spell that helps us keep the podcast going strong. So next time you're itching for a new adventure, follow the affiliate link in our show notes or bookmark it now in your browser. It can be your portal to everything on DriveThruRPG. Now let's get back to the show, but please support the show by using that DriveThruRPG affiliate link next time you are shopping at the site. This is like, what are you grooving on 2.0, Mikey? And part of it is, the reason I do it is one, the segment has gone on like an hour before. Like, so I've like, let's just talk about one thing. Yeah. And then the other thing is I'm giving myself permission to share one as well. Totally. So for you, Mikey, what is the one thing worth sharing that you have right now?
Okay. I'm going to talk about my friend, Michael Elliott. Michael Elliott is like just like a powerhouse of the solo game. He's put out, I don't know, over a dozen at this point. He's one of those guys who he does like 2 or 3 Kickstarters a year of these zine-sized solo games. Each of them so different and so personal, but then so varied in genre. And that's how he puts food on the table. He just is like, he just like grinds on these things and just like has this incredible library, this catalog of games. And I got to talk about the latest one that he's working on, which if you're on his Patreon, you can like find the rules for it, but he also talks about it on Blue Sky. But it's called Punk Magic, and it is so up my alley because it is inspired by something by Jay Dragon called I think it's called the Magpie Cube, or the Magpie's Cube, which is basically a way to use Magic the Gathering cards and like alter them and add things to them, add stickers onto them and stuff like that to and then play the game. Now, Jay Dragons is played like Magic the Gathering, more or less. What Michael Elliott's doing is making like a solo Balatro style take on the same thing, where you get Magic the Gathering cards, and then the punk element is that you're cutting them up, you're pasting, you're switching abilities from one to another, you're adding things to them, and you're building out just this cool deck as you play through these various mini games, solitaire style, and it is just so cool. That's the exact kind of thing that excites me, and the kind of thing I want to be able to do a little more of myself, because like you talked about Hutchinson, and Hutchinson's such an inspiration to me because of exactly what you said. Makes this incredible tactical like skirmish game in just his own way, but then now is making RPG, right? So like that kind of cross-pollination is always exciting to me. I think the scene needs to do that way more, like integrate and mix and so I love designers who are willing to play in different styles of game, and then I love games that bridge the two, right? And so
could not agree more.
So Michael Elliott doing this now, where he often makes these like journaling games, and now making this card game is so cool because he's doing his thing, which is like, he's the master of the solo game, but now he's moving to something that is firing him up, which is playing with cards and stuff. And that's so cool. Like that's the kind of career I hope to have in this myself, is to just be able to be omnivorous in that way and play with lots of different toys. So so Michael Elliott, check out his games. There's truly something for everyone.
That's so
any
cool.
kind of solo game you like if you want a contemplative, somber journaling game, he's got it. If you want a game where you build out your own like spaceship and like mech suit, he's got that, right? Like, so yeah, it's really, he's really cool. So that's my one thing.
It's really interesting to me because, and you're starting to really see it happen in these last 2 or 3 years. So we've had kind of like these 3 lanes of this tabletop gaming, right? We've got miniature games, we've got RPGs, we've got board games. And it's very interesting how we naturally cross-pollinate them as players, right? We'll be playing a board game and it's not just a meeple, right? We start putting some personality into the board game we're playing, or we're playing an RPG and we pull out miniatures, or we're playing a miniature game like Frostgrave, which really is as much an RPG as it is a mini game. And I don't think it's fully explored yet. So that's exciting. My one cool thing to share is a little bit different. And it's very rare for me to find a video game that blows my mind and takes over my brain. So the video game is called Mechabellum. Ooh. And it's just recently been bought by a large studio. It was literally like one dude that made this game. And what Mechabellum is it looks like a real-time strategy game. So it looks like a StarCraft. And when I first came across it, I'm like, at this point in my life, Mikey, I don't play enough games to enjoy games like that, because I'm not good enough, right? And they're multiplayer, and you get you get hosed like turn 2, and you're just like, ah. What's cool is that it's a strategy game where you pick out units, you place the units, you might upgrade some units, and then you hit play. And then they fight, and you sit and watch them battle. And then you go to the next round, and you get to buy some more, move tactically from one place to another. So there's no real-time element to it. And the magic is I can't believe how much I enjoy not touching my mouse or keyboard and sitting back and watching these battles play and then micro adjusting from round to round to round until one of you runs out of health as you go through. So if you're an old dude like me and miss like StarCraft and those types of games, but you want to still get into it, Mechabellum is something to check out.
That is awesome. I love that. I probably will check that out.
I'll shoot it over to you.
I've been enjoying turn-based like strategy games more and more too, in the same way where it's like, yeah, my click speed's down, but my brain can still do it. So
exactly. Yeah. Like my days of Call of Duty are long gone, but I still like to play.
Yeah, totally.
and Mechabellum does that for me. Awesome. Boy, there is a lot of things to do on a Thursday night, my friend. That includes playing some solo games from Mr. Elliott. You decided to spend it talking to me, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that.
Oh, Craig, thanks for having me. I love talking to you.
All right, brother. We'll come up with another reason for us to do that. Hey, for those of you listening, guess what? This is the end. You made it, and I appreciate you doing that. Do me a favor and take care of yourself, and if you got a couple extra spoons, why don't you take care of somebody else too? Right. You consistently are a good guest.
I love talking with you, man.
I'm glad. That makes me happy.
No, you're good at this, dude. This is great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
How long have you been doing this
I've talked to a lot of people, so that means a lot.
By the way.
Podcast is like 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old.
That's crazy.
But I do a lot of talking in my job.
I was gonna say, you seem like you have a skill you've built over the years, right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
that means a lot to me.
Wait, you're in law, right?
Close, almost as boring. I work for one of the big four. So I work in tax consulting. Okay, so like nightmarish. Yeah. But I'm not a CPA, so I'm more client facing. Yeah. Essentially dressed up sales type stuff, managing staff and stuff like that. Like,
got it. Yeah.
It's something that it does well for me. Which is fantastic, and it doesn't take 110% of me.
Leaves you something to do
it
this.
well.
Yeah.
Exactly. No. Like this is what I don't love my job.
No, but
my job lets me do what I want.
No one says you have to. Like that's, I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm in the same thing where it's just like,
that was a huge breakthrough for me, dude. When I figured out like that myth
it's such a
could be a myth was huge.
My advice to any young person who's like about to graduate, if they don't know exactly what they want to do in college or whatever, I say like go, especially if they want to be an artist or something, I say like go get like one of those like 1 year like diploma in like some sort of like become like a dialysis machine technician or something like that. Yes. Because it's really quick. Those jobs are generally way more chill than people think they're going to be. And then you can make all your art, but the only difference is now you're making like $25 an hour instead of $7 at Starbucks or whatever. I don't know what Starbucks pays these days, but like just do that. Like it's better, and you'll be a more interesting person because
that's phenomenal.
Advice. But the same thing where it's just like, I don't know. Anyways.
Are you still here? Look, the podcast is over, and you sat through all of the breaks and bloopers? Well, I mean, if you're here, you might as well run over to patreon.com and become a supporter. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast, too, while you're at it, on whatever platform you're listening to. I do appreciate you sticking around. Take care.